Hey guys, I'm going to try to get through this without crying, but as you can see, this is not going to be easy to do. So, I'm sorry it's taken so long to give you this information, but Sam was very explicit on how he wanted things done, and I have done it exactly as he asked. Exactly. Exactly. Some of you may not know, so I'm gonna give you the long story. In September, we had gotten Bob's Big Boys, and Sam got sick, really sick. He started puking up stomach acid, and I didn't get sick, but then again, we ordered two totally different things. I could tell it was stomach acid because when I went to get it out of the sink, there was no melting that at all. You had to take a paper towel and you had to actually get it out of the drain. So I told him, I said, you need to go to the doctors. He said the same thing I always do. Psh, fuck that, I ain't going to the doctors. Nobody trusts the doctors anymore, not after the pandemic. But anyway, later on that night, he wasn't eating anything. He wasn't eating anything. He was barely drinking anything. Anytime he drank something, he would puke it up. So I was in here in my computer area, and his bedroom is right there. And I heard a boom. I went racing in there, and he was right in front of the door. And his underwear was down around his ankles. I said, Sam, are you okay? And he was speaking Klingon. Could not understand a word he was saying. What? Sam, I don't understand. What happened? Did you, obviously you fouled, but what happened? And it took a little while for him to actually be able to communicate with me again. And I got his underwear back up. I got him on his hands and knees, and we were trying like hell to get him up. And I told him, I said, if you don't get up, I'm calling the ambulance and you're going to the hospital. He argued with me, but he couldn't get up. His right foot kept going like this, but it would not go like this so he could stand up. So I called the ambulance. They came out and got him. Took him to the hospital. And I went over there. I met him there about, I don't know, I guess it was about 2:15 p.m. And we were there until 2:30 a.m. is when they finally got him into a room. But the first thing they did is they came in when I wasn't there, and they said, so do you have diabetes? And he said, not that I know of. And they said, let us rephrase that. You have diabetes, and you have had for a long time. And he was like, oh, okay. His ACL was in the suicidal stage. It was really, really high, like 11, 13, something like that, which meant that he had it for a long, long time. And then I got back there, and he was thirsty. They wouldn't give him anything to drink. And I said, is there any way you can give him some ice chips or something? And they said, no, we can't give him anything. Okay. And he said, while he was in there, because I was in the waiting room waiting for him for a while before they got me back there. But he said they were x-raying. First they x-rayed his chest, then they x-rayed his stomach, then they x-rayed further down. So they were obviously finding something they didn't like. And so I finally got back there, And he was telling me all this. And he said in the time before I got back there, they had already given him 2 of the, what do you call it, bags of saline, because he was that dehydrated. And I said, well, I knew you were going to be dehydrated. You weren't eating or drinking anything. You couldn't keep it down. So he was in the hospital for about a week. They did a liver biopsy. And they never really told us what was going on. But they said that he had E. coli. How the fuck did he get E. coli? I mean, it's not like we travel from country to country that he can get it. I don't understand this. Anything that he ate, I ate. Kinda. I don't do the fast food like he did. He was a fast food junkie. Oh, and the aspartame. He loved those diet drinks and all those sugar-free crap with all that. If it says sugar-free, it's poisonous, people. Sugar in moderation is fine. You want to know how I know that? Because when he was doing his diabetes tests, keep in mind, I have sugar. I have salt. With my coffee, it is sweet like candy. Sugar. And you know what mine was? After I had a big, large chocolate shake, and I don't know, what else did he have? We had a hamburger, I think it was. It was 100. And before that, before I had that, it was 94. So don't give me that bullshit about how sugar gives you diabetes. I've lived on sugar my whole life. But I did not live on the fucking sugar-free poisonous crap that they put in food now. So anybody who wants to go that route, I will. Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. I tried to tell Sam about that 5 years ago, and he argued with me. He got pretty adamant. I don't have to like what you like. If it kills me, it kills me. I'm drinking and eating what I want to eat. Y'all know how Sam is. So okay, I didn't bring it up anymore. So anyway, before he could leave the hospital, they put a PICC line in his arm, like right there. And it had a little, tube that went in here through his heart so that it would, the medicine would go straight into the arteries to try to get rid of the E. coli. And guess who had to do that? I did. So I had to give him the 1 dose first, and then the second dose, which was the medicine, and then at first they had him on heparin until they realized he didn't need to be on heparin because it was bleeding. And it had to be done within 10 minutes. So you got to do a little bit, you got to wait a little bit more, you got to wait. And after a month, we went back to the infectious disease, and they said from the test results that we could get rid of the PICC line. We were elated. Yes! Yes! Even though it was a running joke. Dr. Lisa, to the med kit, please. Dr. Lisa, to the med kit. That's what we called it. Had a nice little setup where we had everything. And if he was late, I would say, calling the patient to the operating room. Well, they took out the PICC line. And again, we were ecstatic. He was using his cane because, he was weak, getting weaker. When we got home, we celebrated. He wanted to have some. Oh, wait, I forgot the big part. So after they took out the PICC line, she said, well, the numbers are a little skewed, but I think that's because of the cancer. That's the first time we heard that there was cancer. The first time. And it was kind of devastating. It was like, wait a minute. So that's what those spots were that everybody kept talking about? We see spots here, we see spots there. We need to take out that liver. Or no, we need to take out the kidney, and we need to cut out part of the liver. the guy wanted to chop him up. Sam said, no, you're not chopping me up. So, didn't do it. Okay, I get it. I wouldn't do it either. If it's my time to go, it's my time to go. Don't fucking prolong it. Just let me go. So then, like I said, we got home. I can't remember what we ordered. We ordered something from DoorDash. And we were eating it, and then I noticed that his nurse practitioner had called 3 times, and she even texted me and said, hey, you need to call me, something really important. So I called her, and I was like, hey, sorry, we were getting food, what's up? And she said, I don't think you should take out the PICC line. I said, it's already out. And she said, well, it might be time to call in hospice. And I said, wait, what? Hospice? Why hospice? I mean, they said that he was fine. And she said, yeah, but his hemoglobin is down. It was like 2 or in the negative. I don't remember. But she said it was supposed to be 1,200. And I'm thinking, is that because you guys kept coming out here and taking his blood twice a week and he wasn't building it back up again because of the cancer? But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to start no shit. And I told Sam what they said, and he said, bullshit. They only mention hospice when they think that you're not going to make it past 6 months. And I said, Sam, they mentioned hospice. And he was like, oh, okay. So then that got the ball started to have hospice come out. Patriot Hospice. Then he's doing his diabetes stuff. And everybody's saying, why? Why are you worried about it? I mean, you already filled out a DNR. So why are you actually worried about the diabetes and doing the insulin? Just live while you can live. And he was like, yeah, fuck it. Why am I even gonna worry about that? I had a few good reasons why he should worry about that, but okay. But, if he wants to live, I get it. He's dying, so why not? Eat what you want to eat, drink what you want to drink, live. We spent almost, I swear, what was it? I figured it out the other day. It's like $800 in DoorDash delivering food for the month before he died. Because it was stuff that he wanted. And I wanted him to enjoy his last few days eating what he wanted to eat. We were going to get married. Now, we've lived as husband and wife, without the icky stuff, for 8 years. Okay? We had joint account. My money was his money. I mean, it was a good relationship. And so I had taken off work for 2 days so that I could get married. And then come to find out, I couldn't. I'm still married. The asshole I'm married to supposedly told me 5 years ago he was dying. That bitch ain't dead yet. I saw a picture from 2024. So I had to get my marriage certificate so I could remember what my fucking marriage wedding day was so that I could get a divorce. So I told work, no, I'm not going to need it after all. Sam fell on the 7th, I believe it was. He was getting weaker. It was the one where you see the video where he's sitting on the bed and he's talking about the food that we had that was really good, and he said, don't eat it with lemonade because that's not good. It was that night. I heard him screaming, and I went in there. I was like, oh my God, what happened? And he said, I don't know. But he was so weak he couldn't get up, and I couldn't get him up, so I had to call 911 assist, and the firemen came out, and they helped him up into bed. He had to go to the bathroom at first, but he didn't have to go anymore. So they got him back in bed, and then his nurse came out the next day, and he said, well, we should go ahead and get one of the potty chairs right beside the bed. So, okay. So he called and ordered it, and it was supposed to be out that day. Well, it wasn't out that day. And he refused to use the urinal thing. He said it didn't work. So he was going to the bathroom. He had his cane. I told him, I said, I'm walking in front of you if you want to hold on to me. And he gruffly said, go on, I got it. I said, okay, fine. So I walked into the living room, and the next thing I heard was bam, boom. And I went back into the bathroom. I was like, what happened? He didn't have the strength to catch himself, so he fell. Boom, right on his head. Right on the bathroom floor. Now there were rugs in there, so there was a little bit of protection. So I called. By this time, I'm really starting to get worried because that fall, he said he hit his head really hard, but it wasn't hard enough to bleed. You know what that means. It could have been bleeding on the inside. Anything could have happened on the inside. You have to excuse me, I've been crying all day. This is the day that I picked up his ashes, so it's like he died all over again. And it's hard. So anyway, they came out, and they picked him up, and they put him in the hospital bed in his man cave. They had brought out a hospital bed earlier, and he got rid of his lazy boy, and he was in his hospital bed. Well, now he's stuck in the hospital bed. He's not allowed to get out. I moved my bed into the living room so that in case he needed something, I was there. So then I had to call my manager and tell her, can you see if you can get those days off again? Because instead of getting married, I'm going to be watching him die. So she made sure that it was approved, that I had the 2 days off for personal. And the nurse came out again. He said no more out of the bed for him. No more. And then he gave him a catheter, and Sam said his last words, yowza. He had said he didn't want one, but there was no way I could change him because he was still going. He couldn't get out of bed. He refused to use the urinal, so he had to use the catheter. So they upped the medication. I was giving him morphine every 4 hours, every 3 to 4 hours. And then he was getting the medication that stops the extra fluids in his mouth. And then he was getting the lorazepam every 6 hours. And it's like almost like a Valium. It would relax him. It would make him feel calmer. And then they were coming out every day. And they had already told me, when they start coming out every day, it's really close. So the one night I called them out because I heard him in his lungs. I heard like a rattle, and I said, what is that? Keep in mind, the cancer had already spread through his body. There was no way he was going to survive at all. At all. And there were some of you that kept telling him, fight, fight. There was no fighting. There was none. I begged him to use different things. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. So, when they came out on Sunday, they came out that morning, and she said, go ahead and give him the morphine every 2 hours. And I want you to chop up the lorazepam and give that to him every 2 hours. And give him the, whatever the other medication was, once every 4 hours. So I had it on the refrigerator, 3 different sections on when I was given the medication so that I made sure I gave it to him properly. And I said, what about that wheezing, that sounds like a death rattle? Because he was inhaling and exhaling and it was gurgled. And she said, it's going to get worse because his lungs are filling up with fluid. Because his body is shutting down. And when he fell, that last video where I did most of the talking and he said, I'm going to miss you guys. He didn't talk anymore after that except for the yowza. I would tell him that I love him and I'm going to miss him. And he would go, oh, like a high-pitched me too type of thing. I will say, the month before he was gone, he got everything that he wanted. He kept saying, you damn right I'm going to marry you. But it never happened. So it was Sunday. I tell you, the hardest thing in the world, and I hope none of you have to do this, is wishing that somebody would stay, but praying to God to let them die, to get them out of their misery. Because I don't care what anybody said. He had that death rattle going on. And you know when you can't breathe. You know when you can't breathe. But I had the storm turned on for him. And I had classical music turned on for me because I couldn't listen to it anymore. It was killing me. It was killing me listening to that. Because I knew what it meant. I knew what it meant. That he was actually dying. He wasn't going to be around much longer. I'm trying not to cry, I really am. So, that was at 2 o'clock. Well, 2:30. I got up at 4 o'clock to go make his mixture up, to give it to him at 4:30. And as I walked in, I noticed he had snot down his nose. And I said, oh, baby, you took a breath enough to get that out of there. And I cleaned him up. And then I stopped. I didn't hear the death rattle anymore. I kissed his head and he was still warm to the touch. But his body had cooled. So I knew that he had just died. I mean, it couldn't have been much longer before that. I called hospice. And they came out and checked. And they destroyed the medication that he had. And then they called the funeral home. And they came out and got him. So I hate to tell you guys, but he died on November 9th. The reason why you haven't been told now is because Sam didn't want me to. He actually did not want me to put this on his wall, and I told him that is not fair. You can't do that to the people who have been there for you. When we went to Menor, the guys who met up with you, you don't think it's fair that they don't know what happened to you? No, that's not fair. So he acquiesced. And he said, okay. But not until everything was done. Now, it's no secret that him and his daughter do not speak. He wanted to make sure when he was dying, he It took all he had to get all the paperwork signed at the bank so that nobody could interfere with what he wanted, where he wanted his ashes, who he wanted as his executor. We would go up to the bank, and it would take an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, and we would come home and he would be drained, just spent of energy. And he would sleep most of the time. So I apologize that it's taken this long, but that's what Sam wanted. I got his ashes back today. And I got him next to my heart, too. I'll get our wedding engagement ring, the wedding band set next week that we wanted. And I'll wear his on here, too. So, I'll keep the Facebook up. I'm pretty much in charge of everything now. He didn't really have anything. I'm sorry, guys. I wish I had better news. I really do. My friends have known about this. My work has known about this. You guys are the only ones that haven't. So, long story short, Sam is gone. May he rest in peace. November 9th, 2025 is when he was gone. There will be no holidays here this year. There may not be holidays anymore because it's the reminder of him being gone. But for the rest of you, try to enjoy your holiday. Be safe and good luck.